Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I wanted to talk about the BET Awards. And some people have heard me talk about the BET Awards and how I've described BET as the new KKK. And I don't backpedal from any of that. I think that BET is a network that is trying to change its image a little bit, but I think that what they're doing is they're becoming more sensitive to the criticism that people have levied on them, accurate criticism, appropriate criticism, that they have played a strong role in perpetuating very poisonous, very toxic imagery to the black community, particularly young black children. One case in point of many is I wrote an article a couple years ago where BET gave the all kinds of artist of the year type awards to Lil Wayne, and you know that I've had issues with Lil Wayne. I will proudly say that an article that I wrote led to him losing his 25 or $20 million contract with Mountain Dew, however much it was worth, and I don't regret it. And the reason I don't regret it is because I think that we have to understand the power of media, the power of marketing, and what this does to the minds of our children. If you've ever heard the lyrics from the song Gunplay, that's just one example. There's a whole lot of Lil Wayne songs I could point out. I'm just pointing out Lil Wayne as a prototype, but he's a trendsetter, right? So you got a lot of artists that are imitating what he's doing in the industry. And if you look at the song Gunplay, literally the whole set of verses is shoot that nigga, kill that nigga, put that nigga with a toe tag nigga. So he's going down the list using the word nigga over and over again in a brilliant type of cadence, don't get me wrong, but you have to really ask yourself, if you have a child, a 9, 10 year old kid, 11-year-old kid who's repeating lyrics like that to himself every day, any good psychologist will tell you that those lyrics sink so deeply into his subconscious that he doesn't even know it's there. So when he is in a situation where he's put under pressure and he says, "I'm gonna go kill that nigga. I'm gonna smoke that nigga. I'm gonna put a toe tag on that nigga." People have to understand that imagery, that mentality comes from somewhere. And unfortunately, hip hop, which is pretty much controlled and run by big white corporations, it's not a black thing anymore. Hip hop on the radio, anyway, is controlled pretty much by corporations that are more concerned with money than they are with people. I'm a finance professor, so I know how money works. I know how capitalism works. I know how corporate structures work. And I know that one of the flaws of capitalism is that you can get to that point where if capitalism is not regulated, it will put money above everything. So when children are being shot up because they have these consistent media influences telling them that the life of a young black man doesn't mean anything, the corporate executives who are making money from this imagery, from this culture, they're not affected. They don't care. They got the money, but they don't deal with the consequences. They're not dealing with the externalities. It's almost like a company that makes a product and dumps toxic waste onto a poor community that they don't live in. And what was interesting about this recent shooting at the BET Awards was, or at a party that happened before the awards, what was interesting to me was this was one of the few times where that violence has really hit their backyard. These elitists at BET, the executives who run the show, they're not dealing with the violence. Their children are not being shot up on the way to school. You saw Bob Johnson's daughter. She didn't marry one of these one of these hood dudes. She married a white boy, right? Because that's what her daddy wanted her to do. Her daddy didn't want her to marry one of the products of the media that he's been facilitating or creating. He wanted her to marry a guy that was going to take her away from that. So it's like, okay, we're going to make money from the hood. We're going to dump toxic waste on the hood. We're going to engage in weaponized psychological genocide on the hood, but we're going to pull our kids away from the hood. I mean, and that's kind of how the game works. And I feel like I'm in a position to tell you about the game because I've been on BET several times. I mean, I've been invited. I've been on a lot of networks, more than I can count. And I can just also tell you that I don't think they're happy with the fact that I'm talking about things in this way. But truth be told, I can't go without my conscience leading me to tell the truth about this. I love Aaron Magruder from the Boondocks because he's actually been much bolder than I've been in terms of really solidifying exactly what BET does to the black community. I think Aaron was incredibly brave to make the cartoon that he made, where he joked that BET is black evil television, and made jokes about the CEO Deborah Lee not wanting niggas to read and all this other stuff. And I just thought that was great. I thought it was brilliant. But understand, we've got to support him. We've got to support those individuals who are speaking up on this issue, because Aaron McGruder is, he's suffering consequences for this. I mean, do you think it's a coincidence that there hasn't been an episode of Boondocks come out for several years? Aaron Magruder is probably losing millions of dollars because he's not going along with the program. So when you see that, when you see somebody that's outspoken, that speaks up, you got to speak up with them. When you see something that they do, like for example, you can go to my Facebook page and find the Aaron Magruder video, or find it on YouTube, the BT video. Share that video, talk about it, really help push the issue. We've all got to speak up on this. We can't allow certain people to jump out into the field and become martyrs for a cause that no one else backs them up on. We all have to realize that we're all soldiers in this battle, because this is a battle we can't lose. It's a battle that most of my friends have told me not to pick. They've told me, oh, BET is too powerful. They said the same thing when I dealt with Fox News. They said, don't criticize Fox News, don't criticize BET, because they're too powerful. There's too much money you can make, boys. Too many opportunities. And they're willing to help you. They're willing to roll the red carpet out for you if you'll keep your mouth shut. But the fact is that even though this is a battle that we shouldn't pick, this is a battle that we cannot lose, because the thing is that if you understand marketing, if you understand psychology, you know that marketing works. That when you market an imagery to young children, it's going to affect how they see the world. It's going to affect how they think. It's going to affect what they value. The reason Reebok paid Rick Ross $3-4 million to wear their shoes is because they know that when he does something, young people emulate that. There's no speaker that comes to a high school that's more popular than a rap star. If I want to fill up that gymnasium, all I got to do is tell them kids that Rick Ross is in the building. They will fill that gym up in a second. Now, you bring in Neil deGrasse Tyson, or you bring in, you bring in Dr. Umar Johnson, it's not going to fill up as quick, right? But there is an influence here. There's a cultural influence. And so at the end of the day, what I think has to happen is, we've got to hold BET and other networks accountable. We've got to put that pressure on them. BET is going to keep doing their thing. They're going to keep making the money. They're going to keep putting out these award shows and the ratchetry. But when you're banging on the side of the door, when you bang, 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 and you're really pushing the issue, the executives are feeling that. They're hearing this. I've talked to some insiders at the network, many of whom also don't agree with the mission of the company, but they're like, hey, we can't say nothing because we're getting a paycheck. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. But they've told me that inside these meetings, they're talking about these things. They were talking about my article comparing BET to the KKK, and I don't take that back, because if you look at who's done the most destruction to the black community in the last 20 years, it's BET. The KKK hasn't affected my life in any way. But BET, I see BET every time I walk up and down the streets on the south side of Chicago. When I'm going out here and I'm dealing with kids that are getting their, getting their slang from the latest rapper, who are using the term thought because they heard 2 Chainz use that term. In case you don't know, thought is it's THOT. It stands for that hoe over there. 2 Chainz started saying it. Now kids are saying it. So these influences are real. Anybody who doesn't think that they're real is out of their freaking mind. Anybody who doesn't think that these influences matter is obviously not living in the neighborhoods where these kids are getting their heads blown off at the age of 12, where they're being raised with so much ratchetry and psychological poison that they don't have a chance to become anything other than a product of their environment. So what I would just say is that we have to speak up on this. BET, they can keep doing what they're going to do, but I think that if we keep speaking up on the hypocrisy, keep letting them know where we stand, letting them know that we as a people will refuse to allow you to have unfettered access to the minds of our children, things will get better. Things will change. There will be a growing awareness. Because understand this, they're not really pushing that negative stuff onto other communities. If they tried to, promote a few Jewish artists and make them just disrespect Jewish culture and the entire Jewish community and make Jews look like a bunch of coons, they would stop that shit in a minute. And so you got to ask yourself, why is it okay to disrespect black people? to call black women bitches and hoes, and to talk about black men being niggas, and talk about killing black people and make money off it. Why is it okay to do that, but it's not okay to do that to the Jewish community? You can't even do that to gay people. You can't do that to women's groups. You can't do that to anybody else except black people. And the reason you can't is because we don't stand up for ourselves. So what I just say, bottom line, point blank, in the story, is we have to keep speaking up about the ratchetry because our children are depending on us. The next generation needs us to be strong. The reason this generation is screwed up is because the last generation, back in the early 90s, they didn't really stand up and do what they were supposed to do. We shunned the individuals who warned us about the impact of corporations promoting negative mentalities and destructive mentalities. They didn't listen to them, and so now we're dealing with the consequences. Well, I think the buck has to stop here, and that's all I really wanted to say about that. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care, God bless, and have a wonderful day. I'm gone. Peace.